All right. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bashem Yahushua, Bashem Kakwadash. Second, I want to give double honors to the apostle, the Master Rule of 12. And peace, blessings, and salutations to the hopeful elect out there that's tuning in, that's listening, and the Aqua as well. This is going to be PBS. I need to put PBS on my bookmark. PBS has some good articles, but this is going to be entitled "History of America." So it says lynching in America, the murder of an Emmett Till article, lynching in America. So it says for many so-called African Americans, because we understand that so-called African Americans are the tribe of Judah, the real Jews according to the Bible. Like I said, just look up the curses. So growing up in the South in the 19th and 20th centuries. Let me see something real quick. You know, assholes always talk about this was happened so far ago. So years. Let me look at that. Years of the let me see 19th and 20th century. Let's look at the years. So the term century is based on the Latin centum, which means 100. The 20th century, which runs from strictly 1901 to 2000, or formerly 1900 to 1999. The first century AD lasted from 1 to 100 years. The 19th century runs from strictly 1800 to 1899. So from 1800 to the 1900 to 1900 to 2000, this was occurring. So again, hey, like you said, it was only 200 years ago, so that's not that far fetched long ago, and it still happens modern day, just really behind closed doors. Um, hold on, bear with me. Shit, right here. So it says the threat of lynching was commonplace. The popular image of an angry white mob stringing a black man up to a tree is only half the story. Like you see Jake right there hanging on the leg of a Edomite. So it says lynching, an act of terror meant to spread fear among blacks, served the broad social purpose of maintaining white supremacy in the economic, social, and political spheres. Author Richard Wright, who was born near Natchez, in southwest Mississippi, knew of two men who were lynched, his step uncle and the brother of a neighborhood friend. In his book, Black Boy, he wrote, "The things that influenced my conduct as a Negro did not happen to did not have to happen to me directly." I might look up that book. I needed but to hear of them to feel their full effects in the deepest layers of my consciousness. Indeed, and again, that's what I'm saying. So-called black people in America and Latinos and Hispanics. Just because you didn't go through it, that don't mean you feel the how you say you don't feel the effects or the pain from it, because we see this shit every day. We see the shit on TV. We see it blatantly happen in front of us. But what in this days of time, niggas don't say nothing. Niggas still kill each other. And plus, also, this is the conditioning that they did to us. Here it is. Esau massacre can come in your neighborhoods and destroy you, kill you, do whatever they want, economically force you out of the barrier or the system of any economic growth or anything, but you can't do nothing. But here it is, so-called black people kill each other every day. And yes, you have the right to be angry, but again, you're not supposed to take this anger out on each other. You're supposed to understand who your enemy is, who your real enemy is. So indeed, the white brutality that I had not seen was a more effective control of my behavior than that which I knew. Although the practice of lynching had existed since before slavery, it gained momentum during Reconstruction when viable black towns, the South, and African Americans began to make political and economic inroads by registering to vote, establishing businesses, and running for public office. So remember, like through the spirit, I always bring out everything you see about today, so-called black Americans today. Everything was strategically done for black people, to so-called blacks here in America, to uh, be this stupid and be this self-destructive. Many whites, landowners, and poor whites felt threatened by this rise in black prominence. For most on their mind, and again, this is the 1800s and 1900s, right after cruel slavery, was a fear of sex between the races. Some whites espoused the idea that black men were sexual predators and wanted integration in order to be with white women. Lynches were frequently committed with the most flagrant public display, and that's why even to this day the so-called white man is scared of you so-called black men. And this is why they strategically do and cast out the so-called black man out of a lot of arenas or avenues so it could be no competition. Because again, men are competitive. Nation of men are competitive. And even growing up around so-called black people, black men, I always saw that too as, we are competitors. We're the most competitive. Lynchings were frequently committed with most flagrant public display. Like executions by guillotine in medieval times, lynchings were often advertised in newspapers and drew large crowds of white families. So the kids saw it, the little Becky saw it, the grandparents saw it, etc. So again, where was the love then? They're just like so-called white people. They talk all this shit now about emotions and how they feel and how they care. You motherfuckers don't care. It's the same shit today. Y'all are even worse. Because Edomites care more about dogs than goddamn Jake. They were a kind of vigilantism where southern white men saw themselves as protectors of their way of life and their white women. By the early 20th century, the writer Mark Twain had a name for it. The United States of Lyncherdom. Gotta look that up as well. I'm gonna bookmark this. Come back to this. So lynchings were covered in local newspapers with headlines spelling out the horrific details. Photos of victims with exultant white observers posed next to them were taken for distribution in newspapers or in postcards. Body parts, including genitalia, were sometimes distributed to spectators or put on public display. Most infractions were for petty crimes like theft, but the biggest one of all was looking at or associating with white women. Many victims were black businessmen or black men who refused to back down from a fight. Headlines such as the following were not uncommon. So again, that's why Esau broke the fighting spirit of so-called black men. That's why again they never. Just remember, all throughout our times being here in America, they never show so-called black businessmen. They always show men as drug dealers or kingpins or the most worst image of a man. And they always show cowards. They always show bitch-ass black men, punk-ass gay so-called black men. Another thing too, this is the reason why it's another reason why they never allow boxers, which were so-called black men, really exceed to any high level of fashion. So it says 5 Edomite men take Negro into woods, kill him, had been charged with associating with white women. Went over the Associated Press wires about a lynching in Shreveport, Louisiana. Negro is slain by Texas Posse victim's heart removed after his capture by armed men, was published in the New York World Telegram on December 8, 1933. Negro and White Scuffle, Negro is Jailed, Lynched, was published in the Atlanta Constitution on July 6, 1933. Newspapers even printed that prominent white citizens in local towns attended lynchings and often published victory pictures. See that? Smiling crowds, many with children in tow, standing next to the corpse. In the South, and that's why the recompense is gonna be lovely. I can't wait to get my fucking hands on these Edomites. Man, oh man, that day, like the scripture says, the good one is in Sirach. It tells you, there's no greater thing to see the fall of your enemy. So that day is gonna be very special. So it says, in the South, an estimated 2 or 3 blacks were lynched each week in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. In Mississippi alone, 500 blacks were lynched from the 1800s to 1955, and they're lying. It's been more. Nationwide, the figure climbed to nearly 5,000. You know they're bullshitting about that one. You know there's many more. Although rape is often cited as a rationale, statistics now show that only about 1/4 of lynches from 1980 to 1930 were prompted by an occasion of rape. In fact, most victims of lynches were politically activists, labor organizers, or black men and women who violated white expectations of black deference and were deemed uppity or insolent. See that? Though most victims were black men, women were by no means exempt. According to black journalist and editor Ida B. Wells, who launched a fierce anti-lynching campaign in the 1890s. I think I remember this, reading about it, or coming across this. The lynchings of successful black people was a means of subordinating potential black economic competitors. You see that? You were ousted out of any way of competing with the so-called white man. So it's a reason why so-called black men are on the bottom. Black fucking women. I need a 6-figure black. The black man broke. The black man poor. He ain't got no money. Well, it's the reason why he ain't got no fucking money. It's not just about fucking coincidence. She also argued that consensual sex between black men and white women, while forbidden, was widespread. Thus, lynching was also a means of imposing order on white women's sexuality. Wells, who would later help found the National Association for Advancement of Colored People, was forced to flee Memphis after her offices were torched. With lynching as a violent backdrop in the South, Jim Crow as the law of the land, and the poverty of the sharecropper system, blacks had no recourse. This triad of oppression ensured blacks would remain impoverished, endangered, and without rights or hope. Whites could accuse at will, and rarely, and they still do to this day. And rarely was a white punished for a crime committed against a black. Even for those whites who were opposed to lynching, there was not much they could do. So even if it was an Edomite, a poor little Edomite that said, please, no, don't hang the black man, don't hang him. It was nothing they could do about it, even to this day. And that's why we always say all you Edomites are going to fucking pay. Because, instead of you open up your fucking mouth saying something or bringing stuff out, y'all don't say nothing. So fuck y'all too. So yeah, fuck the Edomite that's your next door neighbor. There was not much they could do. If there was an investigation, white citizens closed ranks to protect their own, and rarely were mob leaders identified. Violence against blacks would taper off during the Second World War and rise again after the passage of the Supreme Court's Brown v. Board of Education decision that nullified the country separate but equal doctrine. Armed with hope, blacks began to register and organize people to vote. Local NAACP chapter began sprouting up in small towns. And this is, This also has been infiltrated. When Emmett Till was murdered, the head of the NCAAP, Roy Wilkins, lambasted Mississippi and called Emmett's murder a lynching. It would appear from this lynching that the state of Mississippi had decided to maintain white supremacy by murdering children. The brutal slaying of a 14-year-old boy was shocking, and when the killers later confessed to the crime in an article published in Look magazine, and this is recently, you know, and I'm gonna tell you something, nothing was done about it. So, this justice system we live in is full of shit because the fucking bitch that lied about it before I think she passed away, she admitted it that she lied. She wasn't punished for that. Well, but she will be in the kingdom. And also the people that confessed to it doing it, they wasn't punished, but it's a-okay. You will be punished in the kingdom. So it says confessed to the crime in the article published in Look magazine. African Americans and others who supported civil liberties realized they would have to organize in a masse and risk their lives in order to bring a change, man. So again, this is the violent history of America, and this is where we live. Hold on, Salaki. Bring out one scripture. And you can also how the things of Esau searched out. So the hell? Oh bullshit. I was gonna bring out Obadiah. I think that's where it's out. Where is that? So Obadiah 1:6. How are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? So when you read this chapter, it tells you how it's going to be a judgment for Edom, the so-called white man. You can read about it in the book, in the Bible dictionary about Edom. You can also read Ezekiel, the 35th chapter, if I'm not mistaken. It talks about the hatred that Edom had for Judah. The Lord's word was edified. Shalom.